Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be talking about the 2011 Lars von Trier film Melancholia, starring Kirsten Dunst, Charlotte Gainsbourg, Alexander Skarsgård, and Kiefer Sutherland, written and directed by my favorite filmmaker of all time, Lars von Trier. Melancholia is part of what is known as Lars von Trier's Depression trilogy, which encompasses the three films Antichrist, Melancholia, and Nymphomaniac. During this period of time, Lars was suffering greatly with anxiety and depression. He actually wrote Antichrist when he was in a mental health facility for anxiety and depression. So there are going to be spoilers within this discussion. I am going to talk about what happens and all of that. For me, most von Trier films, this one included, it's not really as much about the plot and what happens as it is about the performances, the music, the setting. But for me, it's mostly about the performances with Lars von Trier films. So, in the film, there's this scene where there's this shot of Kirsten Dunst in her wedding dress holding these flowers, and she's like floating down a river, and it's a nod to this painting called Ophelia by John Everett Millais. I don't know how to say his name, but it's basically a painting of the character Ophelia from the play Hamlet, written by William Shakespeare, where she's floating in this river right before she commits suicide. And so I love that nod. Lars von Trier knows so much about art. In my opinion, he's an absolute genius. The first 8 or 9 minutes of this film are composed entirely of really slow motion shots. Now, a regular shot in film is 24 frames per second. So that means that the camera is taking 24 pictures every second and adding those up so that when it's played, 24 pictures per second, it, gives the illusion of movement because it is created in frames. When Lars von Trier does his slow motion shots in Antichrist and in Melancholia, he shoots at almost 1,000 frames per second. So it's super slow motion. What I feel Lars von Trier is all about is giving the actor the space and the security and the safety to go all out. A lot of actors really seek him out, and I can totally see why, because it seems like a really one-of-a-kind experience to work with him. And I'm really obsessed with Lars von Trier. Alright, so basic plot outline of this film. Kirsten Dunst's character is getting married. It's her wedding day. She's really depressed. They're late to the wedding. It ends up being like a total shit show. And Kirsten Dunst is like really depressed. There's this planet called Melancholia that's coming that's going to collide with Earth. And the beginning shot of the film shows that. It shows Melancholia hitting Earth, ending the world, so you know from the first shot of this movie that the world is going to end. And Melancholia represents that depression, that impending doom that, is always looming in the back of someone's head that has anxiety and depression. And I know exactly what it feels like because I experience life, I believe, in a similar way to Lars von Trier. I'm human, I have phobias, I have disorders, I struggle with anxiety and depression, and I'm trying not to share my life story in these videos because I know people probably don't care, but I do think that there's value in discussing why we relate to these films. But anyways, there's a planet coming, it's going to collide with Earth. Kirsten Dunst's character is getting married, and she's late to the wedding, and she sabotages it. There's a scene where her and her husband leave the wedding reception for a little bit to go consummate the marriage, and she doesn't want to sleep with him. She's like, "Can I just have a couple minutes, please?" and then she immediately goes out and finds this random dude and fucks him on the golf course. I think that Lars von Trier used that perfectly, because you're like, ooh, like what is she doing? And then, you know, it's like, but the fucking world's ending and stuff, so it's like, just like, whatever, like, fuck it, who cares? And I totally understand that frame of mind, even though I don't really understand infidelity. But, you know, I do understand manipulating people to get what you want and feeling like crap about it later on. I definitely do understand that. I fell asleep when I was filming the video, so it's the next day. But I want to finish filming it, so yeah. So the first thing I want to talk about this morning in this film is the use of nudity. I come from a school of thought in film that really kind of rewards vulnerability. I love hedonism just as much as the next person. I'm all about pleasure, eroticism. One of the films in the Lars von Trier Depression trilogy is Nymphomaniac. It has a lot of unsimulated sex. Parts of it are literally like a porn film. So in this film, the nudity is totally different. There is an artistic aspect to erotic filmmaking, and I appreciate that. But that's not what this is. The nudity in this film is really artistic. I can't believe I'm sitting here in my house at like 9 in the morning talking about the philosophy of nudity. Anyway, so my favorite scene in the film was the scene where Kirsten Dunst is kind of going through this state of bliss because she's kind of let go. She knows that Melancholia is going to come, the world's going to end, like all her troubles, like it's all going to be over. And there's this shot where it goes and it shoots to her, and she's completely naked on the bank of this stream, and she's posed like beautifully, almost like with her hand over her head, like Rose was in Titanic, and it's just beautiful. I mean, it's so gorgeous, a gorgeous shot. It shows like the temporary escapism and the temporary bliss that one with depression gets when they are in those states of just like, fuck it. And I just really related to it, and I don't look as good naked as Kirsten Dunst does. I'd probably look like a bull taking a shit or something if I tried to do that. But it's just a beautiful scene. Lars von Trier, I know that he grew up a nudist. He grew up partially in a nudist colony. So his view on nudity is completely different than how I grew up and what I was taught about nudity. You know, it was something you had to be ashamed of. And it's like, we're naked all the time. Like, we pull our pants down every time we take a shit. So, I don't know. I really just like expressionism and just like going for it and just saying, screw it, I'm gonna do it. Lars von Trier pretty much pulls it off every single time. I know that he really likes to play around with film. There's this documentary called The 5 Obstructions that he did, where he had his favorite filmmaker remake his favorite film. He had him remake it in 5 different ways. Like, he had him remake it in a slum in a third world country. He had him remake it and have to make certain cuts to it every time. It's just experimental filmmaking. It's just a bunch of experiments. Like, let's go out and let's tell a story about how I feel and get people that want to help us bring that to life and just do it. I think that it's so much fun. It's like my favorite style of filmmaking, honestly. It brings out so much in people, everyone, from the director to the actors to the cinematographer, to everyone. It's really cool. I love these collaborative works that are, just really all about expression. The next thing I want to talk about is Charlotte Gainsbourg. She plays Kirsten Dunst's character's sister. Charlotte Gainsbourg is probably who I would consider my favorite actress. She is the main character in Antichrist, the first film in Lars von Trier's Depression trilogy, and she gives one of my favorite performances ever. The next thing I want to talk about is Charlotte Gainsbourg. She plays Kirsten Dunst's character's sister. Charlotte Gainsbourg is probably who I would consider my favorite actress. She is the main character in Antichrist, the first film in Lars von Trier's Depression trilogy, and she gives one of my favorite performances ever. Basically, her son dies while her and her husband are like having crazy sex in the shower because they leave a window open in their apartment, and he's like a toddler and he falls out the window to his death. She experiences all this like really, really intimate grief, and you see it all happen as if you're almost like looking over one of the characters' shoulders. Lars von Trier's cinematography and the way that he shoots is really intimate most of the time. Like, there's a lot of times where it feels like you're literally looking over a character's shoulder and almost spying on him and seeing something that you shouldn't be watching. It's really cool how he sets it all up. But anyways, Charlotte Gainsbourg is just incredible. I was listening to an interview with her once, and she said that she doesn't believe that she has anxiety or depression, and she portrays someone that's experiencing grief in Antichrist so well that I was completely shocked. My jaw dropped. I mean, that might sound stupid, but she just plays her character so well. She's also in the other film in the Lars von Trier Depression trilogy, Nymphomaniac. It's a very hard film to watch. There's not as much violence or anything like that, but it's so sexually explicit that it's really hard to watch. These are the kind of roles that Charlotte goes for, and I mean, you really gotta be at a certain place spiritually and mentally and physically, obviously, to play roles like this. I mean, her role Jo in Nymphomaniac it's just something else. I mean, it's not a movie that I really recommend to people unless I know that they can handle it and that they won't get offended, because it's very pornographic in nature. It's a very intense film, but it is so much fun. It's unlike anything that you've ever seen. Lars von Trier is just the most unique filmmaker ever, and in my opinion, well, maybe not the most unique ever, but he has a certain thing, a certain aesthetic, a certain way that he makes film, and I personally think that it really helps to flesh out the performances of the actors and actresses. Lars von Trier is my favorite filmmaker. If you know anything about me, then you know how much I am obsessed with him. I think that there's just something that his films do to me that I just can't explain, and I will never stop trying to explain it, but I don't think that I'll ever really be able to really explain what his films do for me. I feel like we're on similar wavelengths, and I know that when we start to live vicariously through people that don't even know that we exist, then we develop all these stupid fantasies around it. But I really do feel like him and I are on similar wavelengths. He struggles with phobias and depression and anxiety, and he is on a mission to express himself. You know, he just got diagnosed with Parkinson's last year, and it really, really sucks. I think that he thought that his tremors were from alcohol, and some of them probably were, but he has Parkinson's, and it sucks, man. Like, he's my favorite filmmaker in the world. I've never seen a film like the films that he's done that have touched me in any way that's anywhere close to anything else. And this film is a beautiful representation of depression, of the lows in our life, and I think that it just works perfectly. For me, it does. I know that he's kind of a niche filmmaker. He's a provocateur. He said some stuff at Cannes when Melancholia premiered about Hitler and him realizing that he wasn't as Jewish as he thought, like with his heritage. People made a big deal out of it, but I'm American. I don't live near Germany where the Holocaust happened, so it could be totally different for people over there. But it was just a joke, man. I mean, I know that we gotta be held responsible for the things that we say, but they assigned him persona non grata at Cannes for like years after he did it. It was ridiculous. But anyways, those are just my opinions on all that. I think the film was great. This is definitely a film that I would recommend to more people than I usually recommend Lars von Trier's films to, just because of the content, and I don't want to recommend something to someone and then have them watch it and have them be affected negatively by it and then be upset with me. So I usually don't like recommend, the average person go watch like Antichrist or Nymphomaniac, even though I freaking love them. For me, it's all about the acting. It's all about how he sets it up. I can't explain it, even though I'm trying to. I've been trying to for like, I don't know, probably 15 or 20 minutes now. So I'm going to shut up. Thank you for watching. I hope that you like and subscribe. It helps the algorithm recommend these videos to people that want to see them. Thank you, and I will see you soon.